Lieutenant Samantha Reeves stood at attention on the bridge of the Earth vessel Intrepid. Through the massive viewing window, she watched the alien planet grow larger as they approached. The world of the Dorzath was red and angry-looking, with swirling storm systems visible even from orbit. "Lieutenant Reeves, are you prepared for the diplomatic mission?" Admiral Heather Collins asked, her voice steady but concerned. "Yes, Admiral. My team has studied all available information on the Dorzath culture," Samantha replied. She was young for such an important assignment, but her record in first contact situations was impressive. The Dorzath were new to humanity, but their reputation had spread across the galaxy. They were a warrior species that had conquered 17 star systems. Tall reptilian creatures with natural armor and claws, they respected strength above all else. This would be humanity's first official meeting with them. "Remember, our goal is peaceful relations. The Dorzath haven't decided if humans are worth talking to or worth conquering," Admiral Collins said. "Make sure they choose the first option." 6 hours later, Samantha led her team from the shuttle onto the surface of the Dorzath homeworld. The air was hot and dry and the sky glowed orange. A group of Dorzath officials waited for them. The aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall, with scaled skin in colors ranging from deep green to burnt orange. Their yellow eyes watched the humans with what Samantha thought might be curiosity or hunger. "I am Lieutenant Samantha Reeves of Earth," she said, her translator converting her words to the clicking, hissing language of the Dorzath. "We come seeking peaceful relations between our peoples." The largest Dorzath stepped forward. "I am High Marshal Vexkar. Your ship is impressive, but ships do not make warriors. We will see what humans are made of." His voice came through the translator as deep and rough. Captain Greg Martinez, standing beside Samantha, whispered, "I don't like the sound of that." The Dorzath led them to a massive stone building with tall pillars carved to look like coiled serpents. Inside, a great feast had been prepared. Long tables were loaded with strange foods, and Dorzath warriors watched the humans enter with unblinking eyes. "You are honored guests at our victory feast," High Marshal Vexkar announced. "Tonight we celebrate our conquest of the Trell system." Samantha and her team were seated at the main table with the highest-ranking Dorzath. Servers brought out platters of food, some familiar-looking, others completely alien. Then came the main course. The servers carried in something that looked disturbingly like cooked limbs from a humanoid creature. "The finest delicacy," Vexkar said with pride. "The leaders of the Trell, prepared by our finest cooks, eat and share in our victory." A horrified silence fell over the human delegation. Samantha's stomach turned as she realized what they were being served. The Dorzath ate the intelligent species they conquered. Captain Martinez looked pale. "Lieutenant," he whispered urgently, "we cannot eat this. It goes against everything we believe in." Samantha knew they were in terrible danger. To refuse would be seen as a grave insult, possibly even a challenge. But to eat the flesh of a sentient species was unthinkable. The Dorzath were watching them closely. Vexkar's clawed hand rested near what looked like a ceremonial weapon. The room had grown. Very quiet, Samantha made her decision. She reached for her plate with steady hands and accepted a small portion. The rest of her team watched in shock as she calmly cut a tiny piece. She didn't eat it yet, but held it on her fork. "You show no fear, human," Vexkar said, sounding impressed. "The others of your kind seem disturbed." "On Earth," Samantha said carefully, "we have a saying, 'You are what you eat.' Throughout our history, humans have consumed apex predators to absorb their strength." The Dorzath around the table grew very still. Their yellow eyes focused intently on her. "You eat predators?" one of the other Dorzath officials asked. "The fiercest ones," Samantha continued. She was walking a dangerous line between diplomacy and deception, but she saw no other way out. "Tigers, sharks, wolves, the most dangerous hunters. It is an old tradition. Yet your companions seem unfamiliar with this practice," Vexkar observed, his eyes narrowing. Samantha smiled slightly. "Not all humans follow the old ways. I come from a line of warriors who keep to the ancient traditions." She glanced at her team, sending a silent message to play along. Slowly, hesitantly, they each took small portions onto their plates. Instead of eating the meat, Samantha raised her glass. Before we eat, on Earth we would offer a toast to those whose strength we are about to take into ourselves. This improvisation bought her precious time as the Dorzath, intrigued by this human custom, raised their own drinks. To the Trell, she said, may their strength join with ours. The Dorzath clicked their approval and drank deeply. In the confusion of the toast, Samantha and her team managed to move the meat around on their plates without actually eating it. Tell me, Lieutenant, Vexcar said, leaning forward with new interest. What is the most dangerous creature humans have consumed? Samantha thought quickly. There are many. Some eat the poison parts of certain fish that can kill if prepared incorrectly. Others hunt the great bears of the Northern Territories, which can tear a human apart with one swipe. The Dorzath Council members exchanged looks that Samantha couldn't interpret. The atmosphere in the room had changed. Where before there had been thinly veiled hostility, now there seemed to be a growing respect. As the feast continued, the Dorzath asked more questions about human hunting practices. Samantha carefully built upon her initial story, weaving a tale of human hunters facing dangerous beasts with primitive weapons, of ritual consumption of venomous creatures, of warriors drinking the blood of their prey. By the end of the evening, the Dorzath were looking at the humans with something new in their yellow eyes. When they returned to the shuttle, Captain Martinez collapsed into his seat. That was the most stressed I've ever been at a dinner party, he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. What happens when they find out we don't actually eat dangerous predators? Asked Communications Officer Linda Boyd. By then, hopefully we'll have established enough of a relationship that it won't matter, Samantha replied. But for now they see us as worthy of respect rather than conquest. That's a start. As the shuttle lifted off, Samantha looked out at the red planet below. She had no idea what she had just started, but at least they were all alive to find out. The Intrepid hung in orbit above the Dorzath homeworld. In the ship's main conference room, Lieutenant Samantha Reeves stood before Admiral Heather Collins and the ship's senior officers. The large display screen showed images of the Dorzath. Hi, Marshal Vexcar. So you told them that humans eat dangerous predators as part of our culture? Admiral Collins asked, her voice tight with concern. It was the only way out of the situation without causing offense, Samantha explained. They were serving us parts of a conquered sentient species. They expected us to eat it or risk grave insult. You may have avoided one problem, only to create a bigger one, said Science Officer Ben Franklin. The Dorzath value strength and conquest. If they believe humans routinely hunt and eat apex predators, they might expect proof. Captain Greg Martinez nodded in agreement. These aren't creatures who take things on faith, they're warriors and hunters. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Then Communications Officer Linda Boyd's console beeped urgently. Admiral, she said, her face pale. We're receiving a transmission from the Dorzath High Council. On screen, Admiral, Collins ordered. The large display flickered and High Marshal Vexicar's reptilian face appeared. His yellow eyes seemed to study each human in the room. Greetings, Earth vessel, he said, his translated voice rumbling through the speakers. We have considered your diplomatic party's words and actions. If humans truly feast on apex predators, then we offer a challenge in the spirit of mutual respect. Admiral Collins stepped forward. What kind of challenge, High Marshal? Send 3 of your hunters to prove humanity's worth, Vexcar said. They must hunt and consume the most feared predator in our empire, the Nixthar. Images appeared on a secondary screen. A massive creature with multiple limbs ending in claws that looked sharp enough to slice through metal. Its body was protected by natural armor plates and its head featured multiple eyes and a mouthful of fangs. No Dorzath hunting party has ever completely succeeded against a Nixthar, Vexcar continued, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. Most who attempt the hunt do not return. If your humans can accomplish this feat, we will know your species is truly worthy of respect rather than conquest. After the transmission ended, the room erupted in concerned discussion. This is impossible, Captain Martinez said. That thing looks like it could tear through our combat armor. We can't refuse, Admiral Collins replied grimly. If we do, the Dorzath will see us as liars and weaklings. They'll likely attack. Samantha stepped forward. I'll lead the hunting party, Admiral. This situation is my responsibility. You won't go alone, said Marine Captain Joe Wilson, a tall man with dark skin and serious eyes. I volunteer as well. You'll need scientific expertise, added Dr. Kelly Peters, the ship's exobiologist. I can analyze the creature's behavior and biology, maybe find a weakness. Admiral Collins looked at the three volunteers with a mixture of pride and worry. Very well. You have 7 days to prepare before the Dorzath expect you on Vextal, the planet where these creatures live. The next week was filled with intense preparation. Captain Wilson trained Samantha in advanced combat techniques. Dr. Peters studied what little information they had about the Nixthar. Its hide is resistant to energy weapons, Dr. Peters explained as they examined holographic models of the creature. And its blood is highly acidic. Even if you wound it, the splashback could burn through your suit. What about vulnerabilities? Samantha asked. It's adapted to a high-gravity environment, so it's immensely strong but possibly slower than we are in standard gravity, Dr. Peters suggested. And despite its fearsome appearance, it's an ambush predator. It might not have much stamina for a long chase. Captain Wilson inspected their weapons. We'll take modified hunting rifles with custom ammunition and plenty of explosives. The Dorzath said we have to consume it after killing it, Samantha reminded them. Dr. Peters, is its flesh even safe for humans? Unknown, Dr. Peters replied. I'll bring analysis equipment and detoxification compounds. We may need to find a way to make it safe to eat, even if just a small amount for the ceremony. On the day of their departure, Admiral Collins met them in the shuttle bay. This is far beyond normal diplomatic duties, she told them. But the future relationship between humans and the Dorzath depends on your success. Samantha nodded. We understand, Admiral. One more thing, Admiral Collins added. Our scans show the Dorzath have positioned several ships near Vextal. They're watching closely. Whatever happens down there, you're representing all of humanity. The journey to Vextal took 16 hours in the small shuttle. When they emerged from faster-than-light travel, they saw a world covered in dense jungle, with vast oceans and active volcanoes. Charming vacation spot, Captain Wilson remarked dryly as they began their descent. Their landing zone was a small clearing in the jungle. As they stepped out of the shuttle, the air was thick, hot, and humid. Strange calls echoed from the dense vegetation. Gravity is 1.2 times Earth standard, Dr. Peters reported, checking her equipment. Atmosphere is breathable but has higher oxygen content. Be careful with open flames. They had barely finished unloading their gear when a small Dorzath ship landed nearby. 3 Dorzath warriors emerged, led by a scarred veteran with dark green scales. I am Hunt Master Krazak, the leader announced. We will observe your hunt from a distance. You're not helping us? Samantha asked. The Dorzath made a sound that might have been laughter. The challenge is for humans to hunt the Nixthar. We merely verify your success or collect your remains. With that encouraging thought, the Dorzath moved back into the jungle, though Samantha suspected they would be watching closely. Well, that's comforting, Captain Wilson said, checking his rifle. Let's set up camp and begin tracking, Samantha suggested. Dr. Peters, can you analyze the environment? Find out what the Nixthar eats, where it drinks? Dr. Peters nodded and began taking samples of plants and soil. Most apex predators need significant territory. If we can identify its habits, we might be able to predict its movements. As darkness fell on Vextal, the 3 humans sat around a small, shielded lamp. The jungle around them was alive with sounds, rustling leaves, distant roars, and strange clicking noises. Tomorrow we start hunting, Samantha said quietly. But remember, we're not just hunting to kill. We need to find a way to do this that impresses the Dorzath. And then somehow eat part of a monster, Captain Wilson added. Dr. Peters looked up from her analysis device. I've been thinking about that. The Dorzath eat their enemies to show dominance. What if we approach this differently? What if we show them that humans don't just hunt with brute force but with intelligence? Samantha smiled slowly. That's it. We're not going to outmuscle a Nixthar, but we might be able to outsmart it. As they planned into the night, none of them noticed the yellow eyes watching from the darkness, or heard the quiet transmission being sent back to the Dorzath fleet. Morning on Vextal brought a chorus of strange animal calls and thick mist rising from the jungle floor. Samantha woke first, checking the perimeter sensors they had set up the night before. Several smaller creatures had approached their camp during the night, but nothing large enough to be the Nixthar. Captain Wilson emerged from his tent, rifle ready. Any signs of our target? Nothing yet, Samantha replied. But Dr. Peters's sensors picked up movement about 2 miles east. Something big. Dr. Peters joined them, looking at her datapad. I've analyzed the soil and plant samples from yesterday. The Nixthar leaves behind a unique chemical signature in its waste. It seems to prefer eating a local animal similar to a wild boar but twice as large. Can we use that to track it? Samantha asked. Better, Dr. Peters said with a smile. We can use it as bait. These creatures have a special gland that produces a scent the Nixthar finds irresistible. Captain Wilson nodded. So we hunt the prey to catch the predator. Smart. They packed their essential gear and began moving through the dense jungle. The heat was oppressive and strange insects buzzed around them. Occasionally they caught glimpses of the Dorzath observers moving parallel to their path, always watching but never interfering. After 4 hours of careful tracking, Dr. Peters pointed to distinct footprints in the soft ground. They were massive, with 5 clawed toes spread wide. These are fresh, she whispered. The creature that made them weighs at least a ton based on the depth. The Nixthar? Captain Wilson asked. Dr. Peters shook her head. No. These belong to the prey animal mentioned. The Dorzath call them grunters. Not as dangerous as the Nixthar, but still formidable. They followed the tracks to a muddy riverbank where a herd of the creatures was drinking. They resembled earth boars but were much larger, with thick armor, plates on their backs and tusks that could easily impale a human. We only need one, Samantha whispered. Wilson, can you take the shot? Captain Wilson aimed his rifle at the smallest grunter, slightly separated from the herd. He fired a tranquilizer dart, hitting the creature in its flank. The grunter squealed, in surprise, alerting the rest of the herd. The animals stampeded away, but their target stumbled and fell as the sedative took effect. They approached the unconscious animal cautiously. Now for Phase 2, Dr. Peters said, removing a small surgical kit from her pack. I need to extract the scent gland without rupturing it. While Dr. Peters worked, Samantha and Captain Wilson kept watch. The jungle had gone eerily quiet. I don't like this, Samantha murmured. It's too silent. Captain Wilson nodded. Something scared off all the local wildlife. Dr. Peters finished her work and held up a small bluish organ. Got it. This should attract our Nixthar. She placed the gland in a special container. Now, we need to find the right location for our trap. They moved away from the river, heading toward a rocky outcropping they had spotted earlier. The terrain would allow them to control the Nixthar's approach and give them some protection. As they walked, Samantha felt a prickling sensation on the back of her neck. We're being watched, she said quietly. And not just by the Dorzath. Captain, Wilson tightened his grip on his rifle. How many do you think? At least one, Samantha replied. Stay alert. When they reached the outcropping, they quickly began setting up their trap. Captain Wilson placed explosive charges at strategic points while Dr. Peters prepared the scent gland. The plan is simple, Samantha explained, drawing in the dirt. We place the gland here in this narrow approach. When the Nixthar comes for it, we detonate the first set of charges to block its retreat. Then we hit it with everything we've got. And if that doesn't work? Captain Wilson asked. Samantha pointed to a narrow crevice in the rocks. That's our escape route. Too small for the Nixthar, but we can fit. As the sun began to set, they finished their preparations. Dr. Peters carefully placed the scent gland in the center of their trap and activated it by puncturing the membrane. A strong, musky odor filled the air. "Now we wait," she said, joining the others in their hidden position among the rocks. Hours passed. The jungle's night sounds returned, chirping insects, distant howls, the rustling of leaves. Samantha was beginning to wonder if their plan had failed when suddenly everything went silent again. "It's coming," she whispered. The ground trembled slightly with heavy footsteps. Then they saw it. The Nixthar emerged from the jungle, its massive form moving with surprising grace for its size. In the moonlight, they could see its armor-plated body, the multiple limbs ending in razor-sharp claws, and its head with 6 glowing eyes. "It's even bigger than the images showed," Captain Wilson breathed. The Nixthar approached the scent gland cautiously, its head low to the ground. It was clearly experienced and wary of traps. "Not yet," Samantha whispered as Wilson reached for the detonator. Let it commit fully. The creature sniffed the air, then suddenly roared, a sound so powerful they felt it in their bones. It charged forward toward the gland. "Now," Samantha ordered. Captain Wilson triggered the explosives. The ground shook as rocks tumbled down, blocking the path behind the Nixthar. The creature spun around, startled by the noise and falling debris. "Second phase," Samantha shouted. They opened fire with their rifles, aiming for the joints between the armor plates. The Nixthar bellowed in rage and pain as some of the shots found their mark. It turned toward the source of the attack, its 6 eyes scanning the rocks. Then, with frightening speed, it charged directly at their position. "Move!" Samantha yelled. They scattered as the Nixthar crashed into the rocks where they had been hiding. Stone shattered under the impact. The creature was far stronger than they had anticipated. Captain Wilson fired a grenade from his rifle's launcher. It exploded against the Nixthar's side, but seemed to only enrage it further. The creature lashed out with its claws, catching Wilson across the chest. His armor saved him from being sliced open, but the force of the blow sent him flying backward. "Wilson!" Samantha shouted, firing to draw the creature's attention away from her fallen comrade. Dr. Peters ran to Wilson's side while Samantha kept the Nixthar distracted. The creature was bleeding from several wounds but showed no signs of slowing down. "The plan isn't working," Dr. Peters called out. "Its hide is too thick for our weapons." Samantha backed toward the escape crevice, still firing. "Get Wilson to safety. I'll keep it busy." As Dr. Peters dragged the dazed Captain Wilson toward the crevice, Samantha made a desperate decision. She pulled out a special grenade, one designed to release a chemical compound rather than explode. "Let's see if you like this," she muttered, activating the grenade and throwing it directly at the Nixthar's face. The grenade burst open, releasing a cloud of dense yellow gas. The compound was based on Dr. Peters' analysis of the planet's plants, specifically ones that might be toxic to local predators. The Nixthar roared in pain as the gas enveloped its head. It thrashed wildly, clawing at its own face. Samantha used the distraction to reach the crevice where the others waited. "That won't hold it for long," she said as they squeezed through the narrow passage. "But it gives us time to rethink our approach." From the safety of the rocks above, they watched as the Nixthar recovered from the gas attack. It sniffed the air, searching for them, then let out a frustrated roar when it couldn't reach them in their hiding place. "Now what?" Captain Wilson asked, holding his injured side. Samantha watched the creature carefully. "We've learned something important. It can be hurt. We just need a better plan." Dawn broke over Vextel as Samantha, Captain Wilson, and Dr. Peters huddled in their rocky shelter. The Nixthar had circled their hiding place for hours before finally moving away to hunt easier prey. Captain Wilson's wounds had been treated with their medical kit, but he winced with each movement. "How are you feeling?" Samantha asked him. "I'll live," Wilson replied grimly. "But that thing hits harder than any creature I've ever encountered." Dr. Peters checked her scanner. "The Nixthar is about half a mile away. It's resting after its night hunt." Samantha nodded. "Good. We need time to revise our strategy." She looked at their remaining weapons and equipment. "Our rifles barely penetrated its hide. Even the explosives only made it angry." "I've been analyzing the data from our encounter," Dr. Peters said. showing them her findings on her datapad. The creature has natural armor similar to Earth armadillos but much thicker. However, I noticed something interesting. When it breathes, small pores open along its sides. Breathing holes? Wilson asked. Exactly, Dr. Peters confirmed. Its armor is so thick that it needs specialized openings to get enough oxygen. Those pores might be vulnerable. Samantha considered this information. So we need to target the breathing pores, but how? They're small targets, and the creature moves too quickly. What if we don't need to hit them directly? Dr. Peters suggested. What if we change the air itself? Understanding dawned on Samantha's face. The gas grenade. It affected the Nixthar when it breathed in the compound. Right, Dr. Peters said excitedly. I can modify our remaining gas grenades to create a more potent paralytic agent. If we can get the Nixthar to inhale enough of it, we might be able to temporarily paralyze it. Then we can deliver a killing blow to a vulnerable spot, Wilson added. They spent the next few hours preparing. Dr. Peters worked on modifying the gas grenades using chemicals from their medical supplies. Samantha and Wilson scouted the area, looking for the perfect location for their second attempt. There, Samantha said, pointing to a small canyon. If we can lure it in there, the walls will concentrate the gas. By midday, they were ready. The plan was riskier than their first attempt, but they had learned from their mistakes. Captain Wilson, despite his injuries, insisted on playing a key role. I'll be the bait, he said firmly. I'm already injured, so the Nixthar might see me as easy prey. It's too dangerous, Samantha protested. We're past the point of safe options, Wilson replied. Besides, I'm the fastest runner even with my injury. Reluctantly, Samantha agreed. They positioned themselves in the canyon, Wilson at the far end with a clear escape route, Samantha hidden on a ledge halfway up the wall with their heaviest rifle, and Dr. Peters concealed near the entrance with the modified gas grenades. Remember, Dr. Peters said, the gas needs at least 30 seconds to take full effect. Keep it in the canyon for that long. Wilson nodded and moved into position. He took a deep breath, then fired a single shot into the air. The sound echoed through the jungle. They waited in tense silence. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Suddenly they heard it. The heavy footfalls of the Nixthar approaching. The creature appeared at the canyon entrance, its 6 eyes scanning for the source of the sound. When it spotted Wilson, it growled low in its throat, recognizing one of the humans from the previous encounter. Wilson stood his ground, rifle aimed, at the creature. The Nixthar stepped into the canyon, moving cautiously but steadily toward him. Not yet, Samantha whispered to herself, watching the creature advance. When the Nixthar was fully inside the canyon, Dr. Peters sprang into action. She threw 2 gas grenades behind the creature, blocking its exit with clouds of yellowish gas. The Nixthar spun around, startled by the sudden appearance of the gas. Now, Wilson, Samantha shouted. Wilson fired several shots at the creature, deliberately aiming for its already wounded areas. The Nixthar roared in pain and anger, then charged toward Wilson. This was what they had planned for. Wilson turned and ran toward his escape route, a narrow crack in the canyon wall. The Nixthar pursued him, breathing heavily as it ran. With each breath, it inhaled more of the gas that now filled the canyon. Samantha fired from her position, careful to hit only the creature's armored back. She wasn't trying to kill it yet, only to keep it angry and moving, forcing it to breathe deeper. Wilson reached the crack and squeezed through, just as the Nixthar's claws slashed at the space where he had been. The creature roared in frustration, then turned to find another target. Its movements were already becoming slower, less coordinated. It's working, Dr. Peters called out. The paralytic is taking effect. The Nixthar staggered, shaking its massive head as if trying to clear it. Its limbs began to tremble and its breathing became labored. It let out a confused growl, then collapsed heavily to its knees. Now, Samantha, Wilson shouted from his safe position. Samantha aimed carefully at one of the breathing pores that had opened wide as the creature gasped for air. She fired 3 shots in rapid succession. The specialized bullets penetrated deep into the unprotected, Opening. The Nixthar let out a terrible scream, a sound of pain unlike anything they had heard before. It tried to rise but couldn't coordinate its limbs. Blood began to seep from the wounded breathing pore, dark and steaming in the jungle heat. Samantha climbed down from her ledge and approached the dying creature cautiously, her rifle still aimed at it. The Nixthar's 6 eyes tracked her movement, but it could no longer attack. Up close, she could see the intelligence in those eyes and something like respect. "I'm sorry," she said quietly to the creature. "But it was you or us." With a final, decisive shot to another breathing pore, Samantha ended the Nixthar's suffering. The mighty predator shuddered once, then lay still. Wilson and Dr. Peters joined her beside their fallen prey. For a moment, they stood in silence, acknowledging the magnificent creature they had been forced to kill. Then the Dorzath observers emerged from the jungle. Their yellow eyes were wide with what looked like shock. The lead observer, Huntmaster Krazak, approached slowly. "Impossible," he said, circling the dead Nixthar. "No hunting party has ever killed a Nixthar with all hunters surviving. Humans hunt differently than Dorzath," Samantha explained. "We use our minds more than our strength." Krazak touched one of the wounds where Samantha's bullets had penetrated the breathing pore. "You found its weakness. Not even our best hunters discovered this. Now comes the second part of your challenge," he continued, his tone serious. "You must consume part of your prey, as is our tradition." Dr. Peters moved forward with her analysis. "Equipment. First, I need to determine if it's safe for humans to eat." As Dr. Peters worked, Samantha noticed that more Dorzath had gathered. Word was spreading quickly about their success. She could see their expressions changing from disbelief to something new, something that looked almost like respect. Dr. Peters frowned as she examined her analysis device. "This is problematic. The Nixthar's flesh contains compounds that would be toxic to humans. Even a small amount could make us seriously ill." Huntmaster Krazak watched them with narrowed yellow eyes. "The challenge requires consumption. This is our way." Samantha looked at the massive fallen predator, then at her teammates. "We can't back down now, not after coming this far." She turned to Dr. Peters. "Is there any way to make it safe for us?" Dr. Peters thought for a moment. "I might be able to neutralize the toxins with compounds from our medical kit. It won't taste good, but it should be safe enough for a small ceremonial amount." "Do it," Samantha ordered. While Dr. Peters worked, more Dorzath arrived in small ships. Word of the humans' success had spread quickly. By the time they were ready to return to the Dorzath capital, a small fleet had gathered in orbit above Vextal. The journey back was very different from their arrival. Instead of being dismissed as likely victims, they were treated with careful respect. Their shuttle was escorted by Dorzath fighters, and when they landed at the capital city, a large crowd had gathered. "This reception is certainly an improvement," Captain Wilson commented as they descended from their shuttle. His wounds had been treated, but he still moved stiffly. High Marshal Vexkar himself waited at the bottom of the ramp. Behind him stood the members of the Dorzath High Council. "The humans return victorious," Vexkar announced to the crowd. "They have accomplished what no hunting party has done before. They have slain the Nixthar and lived to claim the glory." Workers brought in the preserved body of the Nixthar, displayed on a massive platform. The crowd made clicking sounds of appreciation at the sight of the fallen apex predator. "Now," Vexkar continued, "they will join us in the Feast of Victory, as is our tradition." The humans were led to a great hall filled with Dorzath warriors. At the center was a long table where the High Council members sat. Samantha, Wilson, and Dr. Peters were given places of honor beside Vexkar. Servants brought out platters of food, including specially prepared portions of the Nixthar. The meat had been cooked and seasoned according to Dorzath customs. It had a dark, almost purple color and gave off a strong aroma. The Dorzath Council members took portions of the Nixthar meat first, eating with obvious relish. Then all eyes turned to the humans. Samantha nodded to Dr. Peters, who discreetly removed a small vial from her pocket. She needed to neutralize the toxins before they could safely eat even a small amount. "Hi, Marshal," Samantha said. "On Earth, we have special preparation methods for the most dangerous predators. With your permission, we would like to prepare our portions according to human tradition." Vexkar's eyes narrowed slightly, but he nodded. "Proceed." Dr. Peters quickly treated their portions with the compound she had prepared. "This should make it safe," she whispered, "but I recommend just a small bite." Samantha picked up her portion first. The hall went silent as she raised it to her lips. She took a small bite, chewed, and swallowed. The taste was bitter and strange, but she kept her expression neutral. Captain Wilson and Dr. Peters followed her example, each taking a small bite of their portions. The Dorzath Council members watched them intently. When none of the humans showed any hesitation or disgust, a wave of clicking sounds, their version of applause, swept through the hall. "The humans feast on the apex predator," Vexkar declared, raising his drink, "as they have claimed to do since ancient times." The celebration continued long into the night. As it went on, Samantha noticed a change in how the Dorzath interacted with them. Where before there had been suspicion or dismissal, now there was cautious respect. "They see us differently now," Wilson observed quietly. "Good," Samantha replied. That was the whole point. Later, Vexkar led them to a quieter chamber away from the main celebration. Only a few high-ranking Dorzath were present. "You have proven yourselves worthy warriors," Vexkar said. "The Dorzath respect strength above all else." "We appreciate that," Samantha replied carefully. "But humans value peaceful relations with other species more than displays of strength." Vexkar made a gesture that seemed to indicate understanding. "Yet you are capable warriors when needed. This is good to know." His tone had a hint of warning that Samantha didn't miss. "We prefer to be friends rather than enemies," she said. "Then friends we shall be," Vexkar declared. "The Dorzath High Council has decided to establish formal relations with Earth. We will send representatives to your world and welcome yours to ours." 1 year later, Commander Samantha Reeves stood on the observation deck of the newly established Earth Embassy on the Dorzath homeworld. She had been promoted after the successful mission and now served as Earth's first official ambassador to the Dorzath Empire. The door slid open, and High Marshal Vexkar entered. Over the past year, she had come to recognize subtle changes in Dorzath expressions. The slight tilt of his head and relaxed posture indicated he was in a good mood. "The joint military exercises are proceeding well," Vexkar reported. "Your Marine units have impressed our warriors with their tactical thinking." "I'm glad to hear it," Samantha replied. "And the cultural exchange program?" 17 Dorzath students have applied to study at Earth universities next term," Vexkar said. "And 43 Earth students have requested places in our warrior academies." Samantha smiled. Relations between humans and the Dorzath had developed faster than anyone had expected. The story of the human hunting party that defeated the Nixthar had spread throughout the Dorzath Empire, creating a foundation of respect upon which diplomacy could build. "There is something I have been meaning to ask you, Ambassador," Vexkar said after a pause. "Our intelligence reports suggest that humans do not regularly consume apex predators on Earth, despite what you claimed at our first meeting." Samantha tensed slightly but maintained her composure. "Some traditional cultures do, but it's not a common practice anymore," she admitted. To her surprise, Vexkar made the clicking sound that indicated amusement. "A clever deception. You faced certain death at that feast, yet you found a way out. That appealed to our cultural values." He moved to the window, looking out at the red landscape of his world. "That is when I first realized that humans are dangerous in ways that are not immediately obvious. You lack our strength and natural weapons, yet you defeated our greatest predator using only your minds. Is that a problem?" Samantha asked carefully. "No," Vexkar replied. "It is why this alliance will benefit both our peoples. The Dorzath have conquered many worlds through strength. But your kind, you understand something we are only beginning to learn." "What's that?" "That true power lies not in the sharpness of one's claws, but in the cleverness of one's mind." He turned to face her. The story of how humans feast on apex predators for dinner has spread throughout our empire and beyond. It has given your species a reputation that will serve you well. Samantha smiled. Sometimes the right story could be more powerful than the truth. To a continued friendship between our peoples, she said, raising her glass in a toast. To the predators who hunt with their minds, Vexcar replied, raising his own glass in return.